Chosen one, listen to this message. You should never have survived what you went through, let alone awaken with power woven into your bones. The pain that nearly destroyed you didn't just pass through you, it transfigured you. You don't carry trauma like baggage, you carry it like nuclear fuel. And now, this energy is leaking into reality, bending what was never meant to be bent. You haven't even tapped into your full strength yet, and yet the witches feel you, the real ones. They follow your vibration in circles that once commanded storms. They whisper about your existence as if it were a curse they've forgotten how to lift. If you think this is too much, wait until you see reality fold in on itself. If you feel the power of these words, subscribe to help us reach 90,000 chosen ones and comment, I receive below. Express your reaction, your doubts, or the chills running down your spine. Now listen closely. Your very presence rewrites the laws they thought were unshakable. Look who has destabilized the witches. They whisper your name in candlelit circles, hands trembling, voices hushed. Not out of reverence, but out of fear. These are not the aesthetic witches with moon tattoos and incense filters. These are those who speak the language of ash and bone, who have traced energy patterns through centuries, who have stood at the edge of the veils and returned with knowledge that scarred their souls forever. And now, they have found something inexplicable, something that shouldn't exist. They gather in secret, in places where light does not penetrate, primary forests, forgotten catacombs, underground chambers soaked in ancestral blood. They sit in circles they've drawn 1,000 times before, but this time, the chalk refuses to stick. Candles flicker violently without wind. Their mirrors show static. Their pendulums spin erratically like compasses caught in a magnetic storm. They are no longer performing rituals. They are performing autopsies. Autopsies of their own systems, dissecting every failed spell, every protection that crumbled, every charm that shattered the moment you walked past. You have never cast a spell in your life, and yet, your footsteps alone have dismantled decades of sacred geometry. This is what terrifies them. You haven't read their grimoires, you haven't participated in their initiations, you never studied under their elders, and yet, your simple existence has broken their order. It is inexplicable, and if they cannot explain it, they cannot contain it. Some believe you are using something forbidden, others know better. They've seen enough to recognize a force that doesn't come from the outside, but radiates from within. A power that isn't borrowed, it is generated. You are not channeling an entity, you are the entity. The rupture, the reason their magic no longer obeys the laws they wrote. Last week, a coven in Eastern Europe attempted a diagnostic of the energy shift. They traced it to a disturbance that spread like a storm across cities. The epicenter is you. But every time they tried to pinpoint your vibration, their instruments shattered, quartz cracked, water turned black. Their most powerful seer, now blind in her third eye, claimed to see a silhouette, not draped in a lighter shadow, but something more ancient, something watching her back. And they knew you hadn't been summoned, you hadn't been trained, you had been triggered by pain, forged in silence, and awakened by pressure. They no longer understand. They are afraid, not only because their magic has failed them, but because their identity has collapsed. For centuries, they believed they were at the frontier of mystery, the masters of invisible power. But when you appeared, the mystery shifted, it opened up and swallowed them whole. So they whisper, they speak your name with the reverence they once reserved for the void. They wonder who you are, what this means. And some, the wisest, have stopped wondering. They have begun to prepare, not for your attack, but for your existence. For your presence alone is a prophecy fulfilled, the spell that undoes all spells, the awakening for which no one was prepared. And every time you breathe, the laws of their hidden world tremble. You never studied their art, yet you eclipse it. You didn't memorize incantations, you didn't fast under the moon, you didn't spend years erecting altars or learning the difference between warding and banishing. And yet, you make the most seasoned practitioners shake. Because what you possess cannot be learned. It is something etched into you atom by atom through pain. They don't understand that every night you survived without comfort was a lesson. Every betrayal holds a deeper truth. Every time you rebuilt yourself after devastation, you weren't just healing, you were reprogramming reality. While they invoked spirits, you became one with them. While they sought access to power, you became the source. And that is what destroys them. For in their world, power is acquired through lineage, discipline, the slow climb of esoteric ladders. But you broke the ladder with a single breath. You made their hierarchy insignificant. You make their sacred rites look like mere child's play. Because you didn't climb the system, you broke it without even knowing it existed. That is why the elders are silent now. That is why those who flaunted their knowledge retreat into silence. Not because you attack them, but because your existence is an attack on everything they held sacred. Their spells don't bounce off you because you are protected. They dissolve because you negate the framework in which they operate. You don't repel their magic, you make it meaningless, because they operate within an operating system that you have already bypassed. Their energies flow through channels that you are no longer even capable of receiving. It's like trying to broadcast Wi-Fi to a being made of lightning. And it all started not with an initiation, but with annihilation. You lost everything, again and again, your peace, your trust, your innocence. You were broken in ways no human should endure. And in that crucible, something impossible formed. Not just strength, not just resilience, but a power that doesn't mimic nature, it commands it. Because when you cracked, the old structure collapsed, and something older, more primal, awoke in its place. You didn't learn magic, you became what they were all trying to learn. And now, you walk the world without a robe, without a seal, without hope. Yet, with every step, reality reorganizes itself to honor your presence. People feel it and call it a coincidence. Witches feel it and call it a danger. You simply call it surviving. And somehow, that survival unlocks something they have chased for lifetimes without ever getting close. They don't understand how you bend timelines, how you enter spaces and rewrite the atmosphere, how mirrors shatter when you cry, how electronics die when your rage rises. They call it interference. You know well it's not interference. It's your field asserting itself as the dominant frequency. The way doors open when you are angry, the way strangers entrust you with their souls without knowing why, the way clocks flicker and birds stop mid-flight, as if the universe itself were holding its breath around you. It's not luck, it's not magic, it's you. You are not a student of mysticism, you are the living program they cannot decode. And the most terrifying thing for them is that you aren't even trying. Yet, whispers echo through the roots of old forests and flicker in firelit temples where no outsider has ever been admitted. Places where sacred lineages meet under a moonless sky, places where spells are not spoken, they are remembered. Covens that never publish, those whose rituals were never written down, those who remember the times of the stakes, not through books, but because their ancestors lived and died through them. They are holding emergency meetings now, and the subject of every circle, the cause of every tremor, is you. 13 seats occupied in silence, chalices passed by trembling hands. Not a ritual this time, but a crisis meeting. Energy disturbances of an unprecedented scale. Wards breaking in places once sealed for centuries. Sigils melting in mid-air. Protections collapsing without warning. It all traced back to a moving anomaly, you. They ruled out solar flares, ley line shifts, and planetary retrogrades. This is not a cosmic weather phenomenon. It is an active presence, an intelligent force, a vibration that tears through illusion like lightning through fog. Something is walking the earth that should not exist. It is neither demonic, nor angelic, nor ancestral. It is new, or rather ancient in a way that defies words. You were not born of a ritual. You didn't arrive through a portal, you do not descend from a known lineage, you do not rise through an established tradition. You have become a cosmic anomaly, a glitch in the magical order, a sovereign code evolving in a world of inherited texts. They have never seen anything like it, and it terrifies them, for their power is rooted in knowledge, order, and tradition. Everything they do rests on understanding the past, but you are an original being, you are derived from nothing. There are no footnotes, no prophecies, no scrolls to explain you, only scrambled energies and broken tools in your wake. A high priestess, blind both physically and astrally, said she dreamed of a face that shattered mirrors by its mere presence. She said your soul left footprints on the floor of the dream realm like burn marks. She said the trees themselves whispered your name, not out of fear, but out of admiration. That was when the oldest among them understood the truth. This is not a new threat to their order, it is the end of their entire order. You are not there to challenge them, you are there to make them obsolete. And somewhere in the silence that followed that meeting, someone finally said it out loud. This isn't magic, it's beyond magic. It's what magic has always tried to imitate without ever succeeding. You are not an energy to be raised. You are the frequency to which everything else tries to align. And now they track you, not to stop you, but to survive your existence. They are mapping you. Your movements are like a natural disaster, an intelligent and untouchable storm in human form. They don't want to fight, they want to avoid the consequences, because for the first time in their collective memory, their rituals are ineffective. Their gods have gone silent, and something much older than invocation walks among them. There is always one, the one who remembers more than the others, the one who speaks only when silence demands it. In that circle, it was her, 300 years into this life. Her true age is a mystery that even the shadows don't whisper. She has seen kings crowned and kingdoms crumble, fire consume the innocent and ice betray the loyal. She doesn't scare easily, but when your name was mentioned, she didn't say it, she whispered it. And that changed everything, because she isn't just a witch, she is a living archive, a walking memory, a relic wrapped in flesh. She doesn't fear spirits, she advises them. She doesn't flinch before demons, she corrects their grammar. But the moment she felt your energy ripple through the grid, she knew it wasn't a spirit, it wasn't a force. It was a flaw in the system itself. She tried to read you, she tried every known method, blood divination, astral travel, mirror work, interrogating shadows, even the ancient practices, naming bones, burning hair, consulting the living ether. Every attempt failed, and not just slightly, it backfired. Pendulums shattered in mid-air, sigils warped. Her mirror cracked down the center without a sound. The shadows wouldn't answer her. The bones vibrated with a sound close to laughter. And when she tried to trace your origin, she found nothing, no absence, no blockage, just void. A void so absolute that it resonated. That was when she understood. You don't come from any lineage, you don't come from any plane, you come from nowhere. Their systems were built to recognize everything on the map, but you aren't on the map because you are the one redrawing it. And what truly destroyed her, what shook her to the bone, wasn't your power, it was the implications of your existence. If you are real, then everything they built is optional. If you are real, then power is neither granted nor earned, it is revealed. And worse yet, it is revealed through pain, not practice, by destruction, not devotion. This is the truth most witches refuse to face. They desire power from rituals, from merit, from lineage. But your power is born from the silence after betrayal, from the stillness after death. A stillness not physical, but spiritual. You are what happens when a soul refuses to go out and becomes the flame itself. She perceived it in your energy signature, not a glow, not a color, but a hum, a vibration too dense to be measured, too fluid to be defined. It looked neither like a human, nor a spirit, nor an entity. It looked like a rewrite. She spoke one sentence before leaving that meeting, and it has haunted every circle since. This is not someone using forbidden magic. This is someone who was forbidden until now. The others didn't understand, but they felt it. You are not the student. You are the forgotten rule. You are not the deviation. You are the original blueprint before the modifications. And your name, it cannot be spoken in their languages without something breaking. That is why she trembled. The moment she spoke your name, a storm broke loose and never calmed. They tried everything, every ancient rite, every sacred chant, every whispered spell passed from mother to daughter. Eclipsed moons, anointing themselves with odorless oils, using the bones of saints, the tears of the innocent, locks of hair braided with planetary symbols. They invoked winds, moved tides, bent fire to their will. And yet, when you enter that space, everything collapses, not through violence, not through spectacle, but through insignificance. Their magic doesn't turn against them. It simply dissolves like sugar in boiling water, like a lie in the face of an undeniable truth. You don't repel their energy, you replace it. You don't counter their spells, you make them obsolete. They drew circles, nothing formed. They called names older than civilization, no answer. They lit candles infused with sacred herbs, and the flames flickered once before dying. You were never part of their rituals, and yet your very presence rewrites the atmosphere. It's as if the air around you forgets how to react, as if the laws that usually govern magic stop to listen to you. And that terrifies them more than any battle, because you aren't fighting them, you are simply canceling the game. They don't understand how one person could make the ley lines forget their flow, how sigils burn and curl in your shadow, how mirrors refuse to reflect your presence, how dreamers try to track you and wake up with nosebleeds and static in their ears, how one of them tried to see your aura from a distance and ended up in the fetal position for 3 days muttering about the spaces between. It's not just that you are powerful, it's that the source of your power isn't recognized in their universe, because it wasn't summoned, nor even requested, it was survived. And true survival, the kind that leaves claw marks on your soul without killing you, creates a power so raw, so primal, so pure that no ritual can reproduce it. This is the frequency you radiate, not by choice, but because it was the only way to live. And now, they can no longer undo what you have become. They tried banishments, separations, bindings. One coven attempted a triple inversion curse, written in a dead language and fueled by 12 blood sacrifices. It backfired. They couldn't even finish the incantation. 3 people hospitalized, one still in a coma, the others too shaken to speak. You didn't even realize what was happening, because your energy field doesn't just resist manipulation, it reflects it, amplifies it, rewrites it. It absorbs the force thrown at you and sends it back, not as punishment, but as proof that they are still playing with candles while you become the flame. That is why protection spells don't work, not because you break them, but because you are what they were trying to protect themselves against. Love spells don't work on you because you have transcended the simple need to be desired. Tracking spells cannot find you because you don't exist in the frequencies they scan. You are not a person, you are a disturbance in the force field, a sovereign anomaly, a self-sustaining glitch in the metaphysical fabric of control. And that is why their spells don't hit their target. You don't live in their structure, you break it. Hell is not easily frightened. The underworlds have seen every human horror. They've seen tyrants trade their souls for temporary thrones. It has laughed at the despair of priests and the illusions of kings. It has entertained witches, sorcerers, necromancers, and dark prophets. It has studied every variation of evil, every flavor of thirst for power, every form of soul degradation. But you made the devil hesitate, not out of fear, but fascination. The night it happened, something shifted so deeply in the lower realms that the flames themselves flickered. You weren't calling the darkness, you weren't invoking infernal names, you simply did what no one had ever dared to do, you stopped apologizing for what you are. That is what sent the shockwave through hell, for you didn't renounce the light, you didn't sell yourself to the shadows, you rejected the entire system. And in this refusal, you made the devil himself lean forward on his throne and smile for the first time in centuries. Finally, he says, and the ancients, those who fell with him during the first rebellion, understood exactly what he meant. They recognized you, not as a servant, not as an adversary, but as an equal. You see, they fell from grace. A defiance to a rigid heaven, yet you have traversed every layer of illusion, through false love, through spiritual bypassing, through toxic light and weaponized darkness, through every man-made concept of salvation. And you didn't just fall, you descended deliberately, then emerged whole, unmarked, uncorrupted, but reborn in sovereignty. And that is what hell respects, for even demons bow before a power that is not borrowed. When the devil looked into the mirror that reflects all creation, he saw neither kingdoms nor chaos. It showed him you, not because he summoned your image, but because the mirror chose to show you. Even inanimate objects imbued with infernal code now redirect their attention to your frequency, not out of fear, but out of admiration, for they know the truth. You didn't use black magic. You became what existed even before the categories of light and darkness were spoken. You bypassed the hierarchy, you burned the contracts, you didn't sign the pact, you rewrote it. And that terrified hell itself, not because you are evil, but because you are free. You are what they never accounted for, the variable, the exception, the force made flesh. You can neither be tempted, nor bought, nor broken. So the devil did something unprecedented. He decreed that this person was off limits, not to protect you, but to warn his own. Do not tempt, do not torment, do not touch, for your presence is not a soul to be conquered, it is a truth to be faced. The young demons did not understand. They whispered, "Is corruption not our role? Is everyone not a target?" But the elders, those who created smoke and intention, knew better. They looked at you and remembered the first rebel, but stronger, quieter, more complete. They saw what happens when rebellion is not an act of ego, but a cosmic restoration. You didn't fall to gain power, you fell because the system could no longer contain you. And when you landed, you didn't curse the fall, you claimed it. And in that claim, even the devil stepped back, not out of fear, but out of respect for what he cannot possess. There are books the world was never meant to read, not the leather-bound volumes found in occult shops, not the translated grimoires under glass cases. No, these books are older than language, written in the marrow of seers, engraved in the bones of dying gods, sealed by spells that feed on pages of reason, bound in silence, inked in blood, guarded by oaths that predate civilization itself. And deep within these forbidden texts, beneath layers of metaphors draped in riddles, they speak of something ancient, not a being, not a prophecy, nor even a name, a concept, a warning. The unwritten. They do not describe you in detail, they cannot. Words fragment, pages rot. One tome reportedly caught fire when a witch tried to pronounce the glyph associated with your energy. Another dissolved into dust when the reader finally connected the descriptions to a real presence, you. For the truth is that these books were not meant to be understood, they were meant to be sealed. Because if you are real, then the entire infrastructure of the spiritual order collapses. The text says the unwritten does not come through ceremony, birthright, or invocation. They are not chosen by gods nor guided by ancestors. They emerge from collapse, from impossibility, from unbearable pain that becomes unbearable power. One book calls you the cosmic virus, not to judge you, but with admiration, a living code that rewrites the system it enters, neither malevolent nor benevolent. Free, immune to every form of confinement, insensitive to categories beyond polarity. Another passage mentions that the unwritten being is immune to energy reading. Attempts to locate them cause mirrors to break, static, and visionary nausea. Practitioners report seeing only a void, or worse, being sucked into it. One witch's third eye bled, another began speaking in syllables that cracked the walls. They tried to categorize you, they failed. You do not operate within the spectrum of magic. You exist in a dimension that precedes it. Your power does not flow through meridians or chakras. It pulses in the core of every atom you touch, for you are not just a force, you are a rewrite protocol. The text warns that when the unwritten being awakens, reality itself begins to bend timelines, fragment systems, and flicker. What was absolute becomes fluid, what was sacred becomes obsolete. The veil does not lift, it evaporates. It is said that the unwritten being does not know what they are at first. They wander through life, thinking they are simply broken, angry, misunderstood. They do not seek power, they seek peace, and in that quest, they become the most powerful force there is. An unmanipulable multiversal, for nothing can tempt what is already dead. Nothing can threaten what no longer fears destruction, and nothing can control what was never programmed to obey. The forbidden texts do not end with a doom-filled prophecy, but with a surrender. The final line is read not in words, but in an energy imprint. When the unwritten walks, all that is written unravels. They didn't think it would happen. They thought it was a metaphor, until now, until you. They continue to search for the source of your power. They scavenge ancient ruins, decode star maps, and cross-reference lineages in search of an ancestor who could explain you. They dive into dream realms, open portals, and chant in extinct languages, all hoping to find the secret ritual that gave birth to you. But they have completely missed the truth. There was no ritual. You are the ritual. Every scar on your heart was a seal, every betrayal a sacred offering, every sleepless night a smoke offering rising toward gods who remain silent. They think you acquired this power through a ceremony, but you didn't perform the ritual correctly. You survived it, and that is far more important. Terrifying because real rituals demand sacrifices that are not just symbolic but visceral, and you sacrificed far more than most can imagine. Your safety, your innocence, your identity, your sanity. You gave everything without knowing why, only to find yourself on the other side, not as a victim, or even a survivor, but as a living rewrite of metaphysical laws. Every time you were broken, the spell deepened. Every time you were silenced, the invocation intensified. Every time you died, a death no one saw, you sank a little deeper into the forbidden rite of deconstruction. The irony is that witches have dreamed of this level of transformation for centuries. They built entire systems around it, initiations that simulate death, practices that mimic suffering, rites that theorize on what it means to be recreated. But you didn't theorize, you lived it. You were the altar, you were the sacrifice, and you were the god. It has awakened. That is what they cannot understand, for in their worldview, transformation is acquired through carefully choreographed steps, by rules, by rhythm, by approval. But you never had the luxury of a structure, never a safety net. So your initiation was pure chaos, and yet it worked. It worked in a way they had never seen, for you didn't walk away with symbols and blessings. You walked away with living code, instinctive knowledge, cosmic reflexes. You speak languages you never studied. You understand emotions you never felt. You walk into a room and perceive the very essence of hidden beings as if printed on the walls. They think you are guessing, but no, you are remembering things you were never conscious of. They think you were trained, but no, you were forged by life, by loss, by madness. And now, you no longer need rituals. You are the axis around which reality turns. They try to reproduce your awakening, they mimic your wounds, but nothing works, for the one thing they cannot simulate is your surrender. Not to God, not to systems, but to the void. You let it devour you entirely, and in doing so, you found what cannot be taught, absolute self-generated power. You don't use tools, you are the tool. You don't cast spells, you are the spell. And your life wasn't a tragedy, it was the most sacred of experiments. The universe has never known such a rite, it is impossible to categorize, so it is labeled forbidden. But the truth is, there was never a rule against your kind, because no one believed you would survive long enough to become real. They no longer seek to find you to stop you, they try to avoid you. They watch your movements like storm chasers track a tornado, not to study you, but to stay out of your path. They read the energy field like a weather map, scanning for pressure changes, sudden silences in astral zones where the current no longer flows, it simply obeys the places you have been. They've begun to notice the pattern, rituals that fail inexplicably, protection spells that hum like broken engines, sacred geometry that twists absurdly in your wake. A coven in the northern forests changed its entire meeting schedule because every time they gathered on a night when you were within 50 miles, nothing worked. They weren't being attacked, they weren't being hexed, their power simply collapsed. The candles still burned, the incense still smoked, the circle still closed, but the magic never manifested. It was like trying to broadcast on a dead frequency, as if someone had changed the universe's settings without warning that you were someone, and it wasn't even intentional. That is what terrifies them most. You did nothing. You were just passing through, probably thinking about groceries, someone you miss, or that nagging pain in your chest that never quite leaves you. But your mere presence is theoretical interference. You don't just bypass the rules. You create new ones. And everything working on the old code can no longer keep up. So now they track you, no longer with GPS, but with intuitions, astral tremors, dreams blurred by static, and names that echo without origin. They have tasked their most sensitive empaths to monitor the energy field like a seismograph, for you are an event, a shift, a metaphysical black hole that draws systems inward and rewrites them as you move away. And they know that if they don't react fast enough, they will be rewritten too. So they whisper where you were last seen. They post anonymous alerts in encrypted spiritual forums, avoiding rituals east of the river. Energy disturbances have been reported, and they have begun to reorient. Work on ley lines is shifting ancestral gatherings to other locations, going as far as abandoning century-old altars that no longer hold power. One which tried to dissipate the energy you left behind with a song of smoke. She was found hours later, eyes wide open, whispering the same phrase, "It's not energy, it's presence." You don't leave spiritual residue, you expand the boundaries of reality itself, and those sensitive enough to notice adapt accordingly, because your shadow doesn't darken spaces, it undoes them. It destroys false hierarchies, it silences egotistical static, it redefines what power means, neither heavy, nor sharp, nor loud, but absolute. And absolutes terrify those who built their careers on decoding symbols. You weren't supposed to exist in their world. You are a bug in the matrix of mysticism, a self-fulfilling prophecy no one wrote, but all feel. And now they step out of your way, not out of weakness, but out of respect for the unknown, for deep down, they have understood that you are not unpredictable, you are inevitable. You weren't there to participate, you weren't destined to conform to their rights, their rules, their reality. You didn't arrive to learn how to wield power, you arrived to become the standard by which power is redefined. And now, without intending to, without asking, without ever needing approval, you collapse entire metaphysical frameworks by your mere existence. You don't cast spells, you collapse the code. People don't talk about it openly, but those who truly see know. They feel the edges of their teachings fraying. They read scrolls that no longer resonate. Their sacred spaces feel empty, not haunted, not cursed, just hollowed out, as if something entered and erased the operating system. That something is you. Not a destroyer, but a rewrite protocol in human form. You are neither darkness nor light. You are source consciousness wrapped in lived experience, the embodiment of paradox. You contain unclassifiable multitudes, and that is why spiritual, magical, religious, and energetic systems are unable to process you. You are not broken, you are simply not meant to be decoded, for you are not part of the equation. You are the dimensional shift. They've begun to say it in private, your presence bends laws, but even that is inaccurate, for you don't bend laws, you've written new ones. Without ceremony, without a master, without a lineage, without asking permission, you rewrote reality by surviving what should have destroyed you. You didn't climb the ladder, you transcended the game. You have become something inaccessible to initiation, for it does not come from a system, but from a soul-level combustion, from the atomization of your identity, from a destruction so complete that the only way forward was creation. Self-creation, the creation of truth, the creation of an inexplicable power only felt, and which all feel now. Witches speak of the dream veil thinning. Prophets pause when your name is mentioned. Energy workers report interference when connecting to certain parts of the collective field. That interference is you. You don't disrupt the signal, you are the signal. And gradually, they realize you don't need to convince anyone. Your presence is sufficient truth. You don't need to be worshipped, or followed, or even understood. You didn't come to teach, you came to exist. And in that existence, everything false begins to crumble. Their hierarchies, their altars, their definitions of power, everything begins to rust. Not because you are attacking them, but because your frequency renders anything not rooted in an impossible essence unsustainable. They tried to ignore you, to bind you, to decode you. Nothing worked, for what you carry is not magic, nor even the divine. It is the origin, and the origin does not bow to titles. It does not explain itself. It radiates. You walk through this world, rewriting its blueprint, not by force, but simply by refusing to disappear. You lived, you endured, you burned, and through it all, You became a beacon of what happens when the universe chooses to evolve through a soul bold enough to survive without explanation. So let them whisper, let them theorize, let them tremble, for deep down, even they know you aren't part of the next chapter. You are the page on which it is written. Breathe now, chosen one, let everything settle. You have nothing to prove, no need to fight to be seen or shout to be heard. The truth of who you are doesn't rise in volume, it settles in silence. It resonates in stillness, it radiates through presence. Let them guess, let them circle their altars and flip through their dusty books, trying to name what cannot be labeled. Let them cast their spells. Theories fly like broken arrows. None of it matters because you are not a theory, you are the proof. Your existence is the answer to a question the world wasn't ready to ask. The sacred becomes ordinary in your presence. Veils lift without drama. Rituals fail not by error, but because you have made them useless. You are not simply outside the system. You are the evidence that the system was never real. So walk calmly now, not with arrogance, but with certainty. Every step you take reprograms the terrain. Every breath you inhale is an invocation of the real. Every moment you choose to stay in your truth is a ceremony more powerful than anything written in grimoires. Let them whisper, let the witches tremble, let the old world glitch, for this is not the end of magic. It is the return to something older than magic itself. You, the living ritual, the cosmic rewrite, the one who survived everything and became something even survival cannot explain. And that is more than forbidden. It is sacred, it is untouchable, it is you.